Hello guys, it's your boy Wensweb here, and in today's tutorials we are going to talk about how we can bring in JSON data from the server into our Flutter app. So let's open the browser and let's look at what we are going to do with. You can Google for JSON placeholder, which will be using this fake REST API. So this is the site, and we are going to use this endpoint, the post endpoint, which contains 100 posts. And when we open this endpoint, we are going to get this data. So we are going to make sure that you will be able to connect this data into our app. And we are not going to import any package. We are going to use the HTTP client from that. Yes, we are going to use the HTTP client from that. So it's just a vanilla way of connecting to the server without importing any package. So yes, let's do this. This is my Flutter demo app, as you can see. Let me restart it, and yeah, so it's just the usual Flutter demo app. There's nothing new here. For us to connect to the server to get our data, let's create a file which will use it to store our model for the post data. So let's create a new file which we will call post underscore model, like this, dot that. For this post model, let's look at the data that we are going to use. So let's get to the site. We will need the user ID, the title, and the body. So let's create a class and a constructor for these data. With this, we will then create a class which I will call post model, and let's give it a final int, which is for the user ID, and final int once again. This one is for the ID, and final string for the title. Final string this one is for the body. With this, let's create a simple constructor for our model. So let's create this constructor which we are not going to use. Let me change this one to capital I here and capital I here as well. We will not be using this constructor. So let's create a constructor which we will be using to get the data from our server. So it will be post model. We will call it from JSON, like this, because it's a JSON data. And you can choose to name this one whatever that you want. So it will be of a map of string dynamic, like this. Then I'll call this one JSON. With this, we can now have the user ID, JSON. We bring our square bracket, and this user ID, so I can copy it, bring it inside my app so that I'll not make any spelling mistakes. So I'll need the ID to JSON ID as well. This one is easy to spell. You have the title to JSON. So let me bring in the title. So I hope you have seen what is going on. It need to be exactly the same. So this one too, let me bring a comma, then you get the body too as well. Our square bracket, then the body. Let's get the body too as well. And lastly, let's end it with a semicolon. So let's fix the ID, which is ID like this. So we are going to use this constructor to get the data into our app. Let's come to the main.dat file and let's make some changes. So first, we are not going to use this homepage class. So let's delete it, which will give us some warning. Let's get rid of all these comments. Yes, and let's delete this my homepage too. And let's create a stateless widget, which I will call home page like this. So let's do a constant home page. Let's get rid of this placeholder and let's call it scaffold, and let's save our app to witness the changes. Okay, there's nothing fancy here. Let's get rid of this constant and let's create our app bar and give it a title. The title of text, which will be HTTP connection. Let me give it a constant. And let's give it a background color too. So we now have our title. Let's give it a background color. Okay, let's pick this one. And so yeah, let's give it this background color. We now have our title. So we now have our app bar. So for us to connect our Flutter app to the server and retrieve the data, we need to create a function. So we are going to create a future, which will be list. Then we'll pass in our post. Okay, I guess I made a mistake for the post. Let me quickly come here and correct everything. Small o. Sorry for the mistake. Okay, which we'll then call get all post. Since we are going to make a network request, let's wrap the code that we are going to write into a try catch block, so that if in case there is an exception, we are going to throw that exception. So let's wrap it with a try catch, and here let's throw an exception, which will be of E2 string. And we have two ways in dealing with this HTTP client. We can bring an async here like this, and then you use the await format, or we can also use the .then approach. So in this videos, so in this video, I'm going to use the .then approach. So I'm not going to need the async. We now have this try catch block, right? So let's quickly return our HTTP client. Then you get the URL. So you pass the URI dot path, and we are not having the URI. So let's open our browser. So this is our URI. Hope you can see it. So let me copy, right click, copy, and let me create a final URI variable, which will be of string like this. So you paste it, and automatically we now have the URI because the name will then be passed into it. So we use the dot then approach. For here, we are now getting our request. So request, and then you close the request dot close. Then we also get a respond. With this respond, we will transform it into a string. So it will be of res dot transform to utf8 dot decoder. Then what will we do? We will join the strings like this, and then we will take the string as well, which we will now convert the strings to a list. Right? It's very simple. So JSON dot decoder. So we are going to decode the string to a list. So as list, right, of dynamic. Type is dynamic. Then we will take our list, and then we will map the list to our post model. So we will map it, sorry, which will be of list dot map post model. So we are going to use this constructor, then we pass the e to it, and to sorry to what, to list like this. So let's say this is the function that we are going to use to get our data from the server into our Flutter app. So with this scaffold widget, let's now give it a body, right? Let's give it a body, and we are going to use a future builder to build this widget. So let's give it a widget of type future builder, and then we will pass in our list post model like this. Since a builder is required, you give it a builder, and so let's pass in our future, which is get all post. Why am I keeping making this mistake? Post. So where is it? Post. Okay, so now let's build So now let's take care of our builder. First, we are going to check if within this snapshot, do we have a data? So for us to do this check, it's very simple. So we use an if statement to check if we have a data inside our snapshot. So snapshot dot, we are going to first check our connection state. If our connection state is equals to connection state dot waiting, then we are going to return a center circular progress indicator. Let me bring a constant here. Okay, and let's also check. So this one will be else if our snapshot dot has data. So if our snapshot has data, so if our snapshot has a data, we are going to store our post inside this variable. So var post, my post, right, which is equal to snapshot dot data. So let's first unwrap this one, and now let's return a list view builder widget. So list view builder widget, this one. And first you need an item count, which will be my post dot length, and let's also give it item builder, which we are going to return a card, right? We are going to return a card like this, and this card will take a chart of a list tile. Then for us to get the data, let's also have our variable, which we are going to use it to store all our posts, right? So for this one, I'll call it post, which will be equal to my post. Then you get the index of it. So with this list style, let's give it a title of text, and so you call our post dot what dot title. Then let's give it a subtitle too as well, subtitle, which will be of a type text widget as well. Then we also call our post dot body. Let's end this one with a semicolon, and let's return what, a container here. So container, so let's return a container here. So we can now save our app And so have you seen the loading? And yes, we now have the data from our back end into our Flutter app. So let's quickly check if we are getting the same data from the server. So as you can see, this is the title, and you can see similar thing here. This is the body, and also you can see it here as well. So this one too. So yes, this is how we can get data from the server into our Flutter app using the HTTP client. Okay, with this, let's get to the HTTP client official site, which is very easy to get. You Google HTTP client in Flutter, and this is their official site. So after going through this one, they use the async and await format, but we uses different approach. So I guess if you're able to implement this one, you get to see two ways of getting the data from the server. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.